Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. In today's video, I'm going to do something a bit different than normal, but instead of kind of focusing on one knife and doing a review, I'm actually going to share with you guys a new maker. And I'm fortunate enough to have two examples of his knives here in front of me, of which I'm very grateful. So we're going to take a look at some knives from Mike Nguyen, or Nguyen, depending on how you pronounce it, I forgot to ask. But I will put his link down in the description box below. And Mike was kind enough to send me this knife, which is his, I guess, personal one for now. And then one of his customers, Ryan, was kind enough to send me his example here. So anyways, pretty grateful. So again, I'm not really going to delve into too much detail on one particular knife. I more want to kind of give you guys an overview and hopefully try to share the experience of his knives with you. So let me tell you a little bit about Mike. So Mike is first and foremost, he's an engineer, a mechanical engineer, so he has an excellent background for delving into details and understanding how things work. Mike was a collector for a long time, and I actually started following him on Instagram as a collector. I got to watch kind of him progress into, hey, I'm going to start building knives. I'm now building knives, and I think he's made 14 knives thus far. This one was number 5. I think this one was number 8. And yeah, I guess kind of his emphasis is, this is a part-time job for him. He makes knives one at a time, and if it takes him 3 weeks to make a knife, great, it takes 3 weeks. If it takes more or less, then it's really not a big deal for him, because his drive is to make the best knife he possibly can while striving to innovate and really just to make people happy. So kind of a different approach or a different way to think about it. Making knives is not his bread and butter, so obviously he's not going to make them as quick, and he's able to spend more time innovating, doing detail work, and really creating kind of one-off pieces here. So this model right here is the Galileo Westinghouse micarta, titanium bolster, custom, one-off pivot, Damascus pocket clip, really cool custom back spacer here, and then Sanmai, I believe this is like a Chad Nichols Sanmai blade here. So this is what this particular knife came with. I don't know if all of his knives ship this way, but just wanted to give you guys an idea. So Galileo, and then here's the Tyraade. And these are 2 of his models. He has 3 currently, and he's prototyping a 4th that I'll let him share when he's ready. So yeah, so let's kind of go over these 2 knives a little bit, and I'll continue to share a little bit more about Mike as we go. So along with Mike making one knife at a time, Mike is also quite particular about creating the exact knife that you want. So if you see, let's say, this Tyraade here, or this Galileo, and you're like, hey, I like this knife, but I'd really like it in a 4-inch blade, he will spec it up to create a 4-inch blade. If you're like, hey, I really like this knife, but I want it in a 3-inch blade, he will spec it down to create a 3-inch blade. So a tremendous amount of flexibility with his builds. Really, he's more along the lines of making bespoke knives as opposed to, hey, these are the options you can choose from X, Y, and Z. He really wants to take to the next level as far as customization. So pretty interesting maker. Again, he differs a bit in that this is more of a hobby for him, and he wants to make knives because he enjoys it, as opposed to it being a full or even a part-time job. It's more of a hobby for him. So again, 14 knives thus far. Let's take a look at the Galileo here. Move the Tyraade off camera. I want to show you guys the action on this. So completely free-falling, really smooth, no friction, great action, really, really impressive action on his knives here. So it's kind of interesting, but with his background as a mechanical engineer, he obviously has a skill set for developing and creating. He can work in CAD, he can do different types of analysis before he even makes the knife. And then in his free time, he's actually repaired or worked on knives for friends. A lot of knives, either customs or productions, to fix things that were wrong, almost troubleshoot. And that's something that has helped him to build better knives. So this one is a bolster lock. And he was telling me that bolster locks of this type are quite difficult to do because as you cut the titanium this thin, it tends to warp. But he was able to figure out a way to cut it, not have it warp, and still give plenty of thickness for the locking the knife up while creating this really cool bolster lock. So now his work is again, this was the 5th knife, so he said his current builds are much better in terms of the the fit and the finish. This one, like the bolster integration here, is quite nice. It's well done. It's not perfect, but again, he let me know that this was an older build and he's come a long way since this one. But it's the only one that he has available to share with people right now. So look at the intricacies of the backspacer there. Really neat. Kind of a unique approach. So yeah, really nice edge. Nice consistent grinds. He's improving in his freehanding as he goes. I want to show you guys the pivot though. So this was at one point kind of an alpha knife supply blank, and then he essentially came in on a rotary table and a lathe and created this one by hand. He said each pivot takes him a couple hours to create these one-off pivots, which is really cool, really unique. Again, kind of the thing that makes him different is this is more of a hobby and he can take all the time that he wants. It's not a question of logistics and time management. It's, what do I want to make? How long is it going to take? So again, the Galileo. Let's take a look at the Tyraade here. So really interesting knife. Now this one's pretty, as you can see, this is a pretty chunky, pretty thick knife here. Really cool, really well done also. Really neat, also custom pivot. More of that nice San Mai here with a kind of a modified Warncliffe style blade. Something else I want to show you is look at the way that the stop pin integrates with the tang of the blade. He essentially cut a channel here. You can see that wraps all the way around. The stop pin makes contact here, but the tang of the blade kind of comes up and over, creates a thumb ramp on the top of the knife. So really neat. Nice wide chamfers, another Damascus pocket clip. And one thing you guys may have noticed is that the inside of the lock bars are not chamfered. One thing that Mike said is that he doesn't like how that breaks up the lines visually of the knife. But if it's your build and it's your knife, then he'll do pretty much whatever you want to do on the knife. So Ryan here did not opt to chamfer the insides. It's not sharp, but that 90 degrees is noticeable. So if it was your build, you could do whatever you wanted with it. Now as far as like the weight, again, there's really not point giving you too much in terms of specs, because if it was your build, you can spec up or spec down however much you want. This one, it's over 0.6 inches thick here, 0.6 inches thick, so thick, heavier knife weighs, this one is close to, I think it was 7 ounces. I think this one was closer to 6, or this one was closer to 6, this one, or 7, this one's closer to 8. Either way, as you can see, he does like the overbuilt knives without being overdone. So there are a lot of overbuilt knives out there right now. Some of them are so overbuilt that I really can't see the practicality in carrying, but these ones pocket well, they are heavy, but if you've got the right set of genes, they're really not a problem. So, and again, this is what he wanted to build. This is what the customer wanted. So, really cool. All right, let's talk about how he does his books. So, Mike, again, being kind of a part-time maker, he only does one knife at a time, and he'll do a lottery. So if you put your name in and he draws your name, then he will work with you and include you in every detail of the knife, send you pictures daily or every other day. What do you want to do with this? What do you want to do with this? How do you want this ground? How do you want this cut? What angle do you want this at? And again, probably about 3 weeks per knife or so. But it's one at a time. His last lottery, I think 70 people went in, and of course only one person won. Now pricing, his prices start at about $850 for a frame lock, and then they go up to $1,100 for a liner lock and $1,200 for a bolster lock. So, you know, pretty expensive prices for a new knife maker. But you know, all 70 people who went in on his last lottery knew exactly what he was charging. So the demand is there. And, you know, what prompted Mike to jump into knife making was, one, a love of knives, and two, he was tired of getting burned by makers who felt that their time and their efforts were more important than his build. And I think a lot of you who bought collective or custom knives have run into that at one time or another, where an order felt like the maker was doing you a favor instead of providing a service of which you paid well for. So he was tired of getting burned by makers, wasn't happy with some of the products, wanted to see what he could do, and so this is kind of where we're at this time. So really interesting guy to follow. I would definitely look at his Instagram, look at some of his current builds. He has, again, innovation being a key component for him, he has done some things that I have not seen before, such as coloring Damascus steel to create something that is like Damascus, but or Mokutai or whatever, but it has more depth and more scratch resistant. So really interesting process. He's also developing blades that are two separate pieces of steel that are pinned together. So again, you can see examples of this on his Instagram, but even if you don't like these knives or the style doesn't quite speak to you, I would absolutely give him a follow to see what he does and how he innovates moving forward. So a really passionate guy, really loves what he does, you know, as far as collecting knives, making knives, repairing knives. He really is first and foremost an enthusiast and a knife maker second. So definitely someone that I would like to order from in the future if I'm lucky enough to get a spot from him. But again, these are just two examples of his early work, and certainly someone to follow moving forward. So let me show you that action again. Just incredible. So, and here's that Tyraade again. Just a beast of a knife. I slipped. Anyways, so I know this is deviated a bit from kind of my normal videos, my normal format. Let me know what you guys think, what you liked, what you disliked, maybe questions that I didn't answer, or questions that you have. Ergos, quite nice. On this one, fits well in my hand. Tyraade as well, really comfortable. That low profile pocket clip works well. But again, I didn't really want to focus too much on the specs and so forth, because he will really customize the knife to your kind of wants and needs there if your turn does come up. So he may or may not make it to Blade this year. That might be, if he does, that'd be a great spot to go up and check out whatever he has on hand. And yeah, again, let me know what you guys thought. If you liked the video, give me a thumbs up. Feel free to subscribe. Questions or comments, leave them in the description box, or reach out to Mike, who would obviously be a better resource than I would. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and a lot more videos coming up, so stay tuned.